Call the order, committee of the whole. Thanks, everybody for showing up today, Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. Roll call, please. Yes, Garza.
Sorry.
Good.
Babcock,
Here.
Black,
Here.
Wright,
Here.
Simon,
Here.
Gus. Here. Thank you.
Great. I need a motion for approval of the minutes for the meeting of the committee of the whole from June 3rd, 2025. Second. Roll call, please.
Wright,
Yes.
Simon,
Yes.
Black,
Yes.
Babcock.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple of public comments. You can make a comment now if you wish, or hear something. Okay, Terry, go ahead, please. Name and address for Ken.
Terry Brock, 5703 Kelmore Drive in Roscoe. I see item number 10 under new business. We're going to be talking about possibly covering over the mural on Main Street, which is the Mary's Sheer Artistry Building. For the people that are here for the first time tonight. I'll repeat myself, I brought this up probably for the last 3 years. And what I've said is the mural doesn't depict Roscoe. It's black. From what I understand, it's a farm field with a dirty river running through it. That's not Roscoe. We want something bright. You drive down McChesney, Rockford, Loves Park. Everything on their walls is bright and cheery. What have we got? Something dull that means nothing to us. And I have a petition here I'd like to present to the village clerk file. And it's a petition signed by 32 Winnebago County residents that are in favor of seeing the mural. And it states, we the undersigned residents of Winnebago County would like to see the scribbling parentheses mural located on the building at 10536 Main Street in Roscoe covered up. There's the citizens in Roscoe, McChesney Park, South Beloit, and Winnebago County that did sign this. So a couple of weeks ago, somebody made the comment that I'm the only one pushing for this. Well, I'm the only one that comes to the meetings, but you can see tonight, I'm not the only person, which I'm glad. So I wish anybody to add on to my comment, and village clerk, here's my petition. And if the village president would like to see it first.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Terry.
You bet.
Any others? Anyone online? Okay, old business, number 2. Discussion and recommendation of bid specifications for Hodges Run Small Business Incubator Site. Last I remember we had mentioned we're looking for a better picture, more 3D,
Right.
more visually acceptable kind of site. I mean, those are awesome.
It's helpful.
Same layout, same design as we've seen all along, a little more detail now, got the parking. I think the turnaround got added from, as we were going through discussions here, does not depict the playground. Since we talked about that during budget, that was pulled off to phase 2. But otherwise, the main area is the same. Sidewalks, curb, gutter. Other questions, comments?
This is helpful. I've gotten a lot of comments from people that felt it was a lot of stuff going in a small space. They felt it was crowded, and by looking at the sort of architectural designs specs, you don't get visual representation or spacing of what this looks like. Is this for public consumption? Is this gonna be?
This is on the board packet, so the public has all has access. to this.
Can you get this out, like, next door, on things like that?
Facebook. Village website.
Yeah, I mean, we're sort of on hold until we decide what we're going to do. So we've obviously sort of under. Or the time before we need to decide if we want to go forward with this, we want to flag it for bid, and get the construction started. Obviously, the public's already had, they've had input on this, comments on this, we can have a public open house or another public meeting about it.
Comment, it's more so just awareness, right? There's a lot of people that aren't even aware of this. I think it'd be
Yeah.
nice to get excitement to show it to people, in a forum where they can see it either next door or on
Yeah.
Facebook or something, because people aren't aware of it.
Yeah,
Once
I
we
mean,
vote on this, can we get a picture of this out on the site?
well, that's why we've been holding off on everything, and we had, we had that news, we had we were on the WTO a month ago. Just for a few minutes talking about this, showing the rendering from the previous rendering, which is similar to this. From that, I had about 3 people call me and say, when is this going up? When can I, put my application in? When can I, come here? So, yeah, I agree. Once the public sees this, I think they are excited. I think businesses are excited about it. It's just we're at the point of what do we want to do? Go forward with it? Do we want to, continue with this? Do we not? Is there, feedback? It's pretty much set for bidding. Once we sort of finalize this, we get the go ahead from the board. We'll be able to move forward to the board meeting to approve the bid documents or release it for bid. And once we get that actually sort of finalized, yeah, we're doing this, then we'll get renderings out, we'll get public information out, we'll get, applications going, we'll get that whole process moving forward. But I think until we sort of decide this is what we're gonna do, we wanna do this, so I think it might be premature to start that. Different angle.
Did we figure out estimates on what this is gonna cost to operate annually?
Yeah, we don't have those numbers now until we decide we're going
Well, we
forward
don't
with
have
that.
to decide, that might be my deciding factor, right? I don't know what it's gonna cost to operate, I don't know what we're gonna rent these things for, what our revenues and all that.
And we won't know some of it until we get the bids back, sort of what our costs will be.
This is just to put it out for bid. This
Just
is
to put it out for bid, to get
awarding any
bids,
type of
not awarding it,
contract or
no.
anything like that. So we'll have all those numbers before we award contract.
Yeah, and we'll be able to know, okay, here, or it may come back at, this is going to be, 60 million. Really, but $6 million, $20 million to build this, I mean, or some extremely ridiculously high number. Then the board, you might say, okay, this is gonna be really pricey, we're not gonna do this whole project, or we're only gonna do 6 of these, or we're gonna do, not gonna do sidewalks because they're too expensive, we're not gonna do the parking lot because it's too expensive this year, so. We think this is within that budget that the board, approved, but again, we won't know for sure until we get it actually, bid out.
I'm okay with putting it out for bid, but
Yeah, you
a
won't,
part of the actual approval, I'd like us to sit down and figure out what our revenue is gonna be versus our expenditures too. So we're not spending an additional $200,000 a year on this, just to
Exactly.
take care of it.
sure. Yeah.
I'd do a motion to send it to the board then.
So moved.
Please, Kim.
Squawk,
Yes.
Babcock,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
and Simon.
Yes.
Second, because he.
Thank you.
He made a motion. I took it as him taking the lead, so I said so.
Good, Kim?
Yep.
Very good, thank you. Number 3, discussion and recommendation of a professional services agreement with Place Foundry LLC to provide economic development consulting services to the village of Roscoe. Discussion, questions? They're up now, we're doing month to month currently, I believe, they're up in June.
We're up at this point, really at this point, it's what do you want to see for that position? Do you want to see, I mean, there's the main 3 It's all outlined in the packet. I'm sure everybody's looked at that. We've got the three sort of main projects working on right now. We've got our I-90 sort of corridor plan back out there. We've got our Main Street plan, right? That's the other sort of, that's a big thing that we're doing, that whole Main Street project. And then we also have our Main Street Business District Alliance sort of kicking that off and moving that forward. So those are the big three things that we sort of have. We talked to them, they'll do nothing, right? The options are do nothing and say, you know what, we're sort of done, move on. They're not gonna be hurt by that, they'll move on. The other option is do all three things and keep it moving, keep it around that dollar amount for the three things. Or it's say, what's our focus? What's our priority on it? Do we want them to stay here and work on the Main Street project and keep that moving forward? Or put together a plan for the 90 corridor, or just the Business District Alliance sort of consulting on that, or maybe something else. So that's where we're at, is what do you want to see for?
Are they open to à la carte?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it would be, I guess, whatever that would mean, I guess, but
Those
it's
three,
either I those three or say something else, bringing them for something else too, but
can we pick one?
you can pick one.
Okay.
You can pick one. I think there's percentages roughly how much they have it, but yeah, I mean, figured that number would be, a third of that number. If there's a focus you want to have focused on, Main Street's sort of our big push right now. We spent a lot trying to get that plan moving and we're moving forward with that.
I guess the issue I have is the on-call, right? So we're just paying a retainer every month, six grand. And then if they do something on top of that, right? Is that true?
No, we're not paying them a retainer really. We're paying them they're giving us whatever X number of hours based on this percentage share of work. They're splitting their time amongst all these three projects right now.
So they're getting $6,000 a month regardless.
Or
I mean, we're on the hook for it up to $6,000.
The new contract was for 92.
this is 92 for
92, right?
for
For 12 months.
And then
And,
for those three projects combined.
right,
9,200?
It says 98.50. I see,
per month,
per month.
yeah, 9,850
the
per
original
month.
was the original 6,000.
We had three different contracts, so we had two going, so it was the same number, roughly the same number. We had two separate contracts, that's where we're at. This is combining all of them into one sort of consolidated.
I don't see spending that type of money monthly. I just think it's ridiculous. I think that we can really scale it down or just be done altogether. I think it's important we move forward with some of these projects, but there's other firms as well, or there's other people we can call up to do other projects as well. I just think it's a big expenditure.
Do we want to consider, like we talked about, hiring our own individual person to go out? What did you call it, Joe?
Your economic development director,
Yeah.
what you want to call it, Area development director, planning and development.
We have
planning
budget
and zoning.
talks coming up in starting August,
Well,
so we want to get some sort of job description, do we have something?
But in the interim, what do you suggest or what do you want to see regarding Main Street District and the Business District Alliance? If we say to Place Foundry, we're done with you, no more implementation because you're at various stages of implementing various elements of this. So if we call tomorrow and say the board has fired you, basically, how are we going to implement these things? It will take a while to get that job description, to do that job hunt, to get somebody in place. So what do we do over the next several weeks, months? We have this momentum that we built. It would be very disappointing to kick it to the curb, tell those individuals who've been showing up for these meetings and who have already got themselves organized into working committees, say, oops, we're on hold now and we don't know how long.
It doesn't sound like it's really has momentum. It seems like they're doing, chili cook-offs, things like that are maybe not the best use of our time. That's the directions Place Foundry is moving. So I don't know if it's, it is a total revamp. That's, I think that's the direction that we're hearing, and we've talked to business owners and folks. It doesn't seem like the momentum is building.
I'm in favor of picking one of those. I kind of put back and forth between I-90 and Main Street. Our RFP didn't work. And right now, we don't have a clear direction as to what we're gonna do with Liberty. And hopefully we don't run into the same situation we did at LeBrie. I'm for picking one of those. And maybe discussing, I'm really intrigued by the other position. Of somebody,
Which one are you?
whatever we let, oh, which out of the three?
I have four, I guess. Implementation, strategic planning, stakeholder engagement, advisory services.
Part of those projects. I guess my thought.
Which three are?
Well, I think the mention, what you're talking about, Main Street.
I-90, Main
I-90
Street, and this business.
That's three different project.
I'd like to see them continue the business district alliance and get that moving forward, because really, that one does seem like it's moving forward. There's different opinions on that, but I like that, and then I really think we do need to get we're working on cataloging I-90 property owners, working on meeting with them, sort of doing those, I don't know, engagement process, takeover process, trying to get a catalog of people, trying to get a catalog of properties. And, I think that's a really nice, specific, focused project. You can say, yep, what are we doing?
I agree.
You're doing that. And they've been working on that as well. That's one of the projects they're working on right now for I-90. Not necessarily here is a design of master plan of I-90. I don't know that we need that right now. But I think you do need a catalog of developable properties. Where there's sewer and water there. Where are the property owners? Are property owners even interested in selling or develop?
I like that.
So I think that's a really, really important one that we get going, get that cataloging of those properties.
And those are
That's-
tasks that they have already put in
Correct. They
place.
already have those.
And so when I talk about implementation, it's just, in my opinion, unreasonable to say, okay, well, we're going to just suddenly break and we're going to take a breather, we're going to take a pause. And we're not going to continue with that until we find this other person several months from now. Because you lose that continuity and that momentum. And as for the business alliance, there were meetings, there were focus groups that were formed after the last meeting where individuals have actually got together on their own and refined what they want to do for the next event. And it wasn't going to be the chili cook-off. So there is that. I don't know what business owners you're talking to, but the other business owners that we've heard from and have met with, they are working on something and they formed their group. So there is this beginning of this independent and viable business alliance. And it would be a shame to say, okay, let's put that on pause also. So in my opinion, the Business District Alliance, the Main Street thing, and as well as reaching out to the property owners of 990 Rock, all three of them are equally important to the viability of this community.
I'm not at $9,800 a month for an event planner, I'm out. I think that whole Business District Alliance I was there, I agree with Trustee Babcock's assessment of what, I think it's taken a left turn and totally 110% lost focus of what we're trying to do. I don't think we need David Sidney here to do event planning. And I don't know why we're talking even about event planning at a parking lot or wherever we want to hold an event.
Implementation is 40%. That is the direct project management, Bridge Street, pop-up initiatives and PDA formation. So
No,
are we asking to flip-flop the percentages of like strategic planning is the Rockton Road corridor at 25%? So should 40% actually be at that?
I would agree.
So I guess we need to.
I think we've made some pretty good movement on Main Street here. We've got 2 projects in the works that I think we need to focus on those 2 and get those completed and finished. And then maybe pick back up on what to do after we get those actually functioning. But as far as events planning goes, no, we should either be able to do that on our own, but again, I think the group's gone off the rail.
I think it's a little bit, one shouldn't just say event planning. What it is was the coordination and bringing together individuals and the structure and the impetus and the organization to get these individuals together to speak. He's not the event planner. He was the facilitator for just that one small part. And the formation of the 5013C is also in the works, and it came from those groups of individuals who have been meeting. And that is something that's going to be going forward. So it does them a great disservice, or does the organization, or does the work that they've been doing to just label it as an event planner. That's not, has been primary.
I would move that we at least address on narrowing the scope and reducing the cost. What that looks like, what we agree what the priorities are, and if we can use other resources as well. For certain things. So I think that that's something we should definitely look at. And I would move that we have a discussion or put something on the meeting for the next committee goals, is what that looks like and what the target budget would look like on that.
I think would it make more sense to just give them a scope of services and say, how much is this? Can you get it done by the end of the year? Or like we do with our engineering and whatnot,
We could do that. I mean,
that might be more cost effective. You don't just say, we're done with you. We say, we want you to focus on Rockton Road and getting all that together, finish the catalog. How much is that gonna cost? And then, our direct property project management with not just run, what's that gonna cost to finish up that project with you? Instead of doing a
And is there,
$10,000.
is there a desire to pivot from the RFP to the RFQ for the three properties?
I think we need to, we cannot make it so strict. The whole concept from the beginning, the whole spirit of what we were trying to accomplish, RFQ versus RFP, was to get interest, was to get people there, regardless if you call it RFQ, RFP. We wanted people to get it, and we got zero. We got zero on it, and the feedback was that it was too cumbersome. It was a lot of information, and maybe it is not. Maybe it's a discussion, maybe it's a sign in the field, to call and talk to people and see what we can get out of there. But whatever it is, it didn't work, and we need, the intention is to develop these projects and get people that are interested to talk about it.
When I'm looking at this, there's one spot, it's 9,200. 110 for a year, then right after that, and both letters are dated the same day, and then it says 9850. What am I missing here? 9850, but I would look at this like, I think, David, when you look at the entire proposal of 41 pages that he's put together of all the things that they do for that, it's quite reasonable, even though it's 9,200 a month. It's quite reasonable for how much we've got, because you're not going to find everybody, everybody they's put together that put every time we've asked him to do something, he comes back with just like the Hodges Run thing. We needed that when we turned that around. But why is there a difference? Because on page,
That's a good question.
it's a Village Garage Comprehensive Plan Service Proposal, page 40. It's 9,200. Right before that, it's 110,000, breaks it out. Then the next letter, there's a letter that everybody's referring to after that. It's same date, but then it says 9850.
Type. It deserves a question. You're right. The maybe 91 has one price, and then
I think that you read through all 41 pages that we have right here. There's a lot that he's doing. There's a lot of these bringing to the table with his background and experience as and his architect and one of these things. It looks simple to us, but having technical background, it's like the amount of time it takes just to put a proposal together, just like this 41 pages here, even though a lot of that is, you take one company that you do it for it, it's a template. But nevertheless, he's really coordinate everything we do. Project management, which is You heard me say that we need that before. Well, he's doing all these project management, even though we're not following around every day for what he's doing. I think he's delivering on executing on the vision, which is what he's done. And every meeting he's had, so here's where we were, he has a crisp timeline. So I'm for keeping David, but that's what we.
I would also like to add, part of that is the wealth of people he knows and the contacts and the reach he has, as well as the successes he's had in other communities. He has a proven track record and he can bring to this whole process, as I said, a number of experts and a number of contacts and motivate people to assume greater roles.
I would say that he needs to come back one more time and present to us, but he needs to be a little bit more crisp and get it down to, here's what I'm doing, instead of, some of his presentations a little bit wordy. Or it goes on, but I think he needs to come back and say, here's why you need to hire me. And put it back in front of us and I'd give a position.
I'm good with the way Justin explained it. If we want to put the percentages wise, and here's what we want. Those three options, and we finally pick.
Well, you know what? To that point, Mike, we should say, okay, that 40%, which he does break down.
Right.
It's 40%, he tells you what he's gonna do, but come back and say, hey.
Now, here's how much.
Yeah, and maybe we do the same thing, because of our revenue is low, which was why we're trying to do the things to get to a point where we're generating revenue.
9,200, 9,850 is still a rather large sum of money. And,
Well, we can solve that problem. We can.
if we pick one, if we pick one thing out of there that we want to focus on. And as just mentioned, we examined $9,000 a month can go a long way with a salary. I would hope.
It might, you can pay somebody that, but you won't necessarily get all the experience that he has. Anyway, I'm done. And we'll talk.
We present, ask him to come back and
Yeah, do you want, I guess maybe, do you want to talk about me now, but if you want to just send me things, send me your priorities, so I can get those to him, so you can tailor that to your individual priorities, obviously not.
out of the three.
Not together, but just send it to me directly, and what are your, maybe even that, what are your priorities, right? What are your, as a village board member, not as a board, I guess, as a whole, but as a board member, what are your priorities?
One to the three.
And it doesn't have to be this, it doesn't have to be those three things, it can be whatever, but, I think it'll give him some direction of what you're looking for. I think that's some of the issues we've had. It's like, it'll give us a little direction of what do you
What do we
want
want?
to see? Right? What do you want him to do? What do you want to see with the village?
Do you have a deadline, Joe, for that? So we get.
Probably 2 a week here.
Okay.
You're hitting a week.
We could get it for the next.
Well, if you can get it before
Before that,
way
then
we
he
give
can
it
come to
him
the next
ahead of
meeting.
time.
Yeah, it's like.
Yeah.
1 week. And we get word to Dane and John.
Sure.
Thank you.
So is the assignment to be specific? For example, just tossing it out here, someone might say, I want to see the 501c3 in place by August 30th. Or someone else might say, I want to see the process for connecting with the major property owners at I-90. I want to see, those things that can be attained and measured. Instead of create a vibrant downtown, get to the specifics.
I think a lot of it too is that he doesn't give time. In some cases. Like for the process with the property owners of it, I mean, I honestly didn't know that they were doing that, like, well, what's that time frame? When would something like that be complete? I see a percentage of what amount of time they're working on it, is that 25% of a 40-hour work week, is it just 25%?
Only just how many hours.
I think it's been bigger about
That's what we're looking for.
Like How
specific.
when would we have the final product in our hand? I think there's a lot of things that we run into. We don't see the day to day, so. Is something like that a 2-year long process? Or it is, like the bridge or Main Street here, like,
Sort of like-
501(c)(3).
Sort of like this, right? So we have the 501(c)(3) timeline, but maybe more, giving you a start date and then X number of times through.
Right,
I think it's in here for the other one as well, but yeah, if that's where you're looking, yeah, yep. I think he's thinking about having those, but maybe it's more, I think initially, then maybe it's okay, here's where we're at on this status.
Yeah,
Well,
some
the
of those things
updates
have been
and the
moving
check.
faster.
Yeah.
And it can be included, remember, he had spoken about, was it monthly reports to the board or monthly
Monthly
reports to the board and quarterly work sessions? So one of those suggestions might be, revised timelines and the monthly report to the board.
and
It's-
I've asked him
it's-
several times too, like, when he has his meetings and stuff, they're usually at 4 or 5 o'clock, which is difficult with my summer work schedule. I don't get paid time off, I can't just leave at the moment, drop of a hat. If he could at least send out a report, like you're saying, of how the meeting went or what was discussed through the meeting. I mean, I have not gotten an email from him one time. Since we hired him. That's me personally. Or everybody else is.
Well, that can be included then in the monthly report to the board. And,
And I've reached
Okay,
out to
yeah.
him and I've asked him things and I typically don't hear anything back. It probably gets discussed at a meeting that I can't attend. At the time.
Good with the 1 week?
Yeah.
Very good. Let's move on to new business. Discussion and recommendation for approval of a planned unit development PUD for the properties commonly known as all those listed, Prairie Rose Development, I'm gonna call it, for use of your terms.
Yeah, by Jeff, we can hold this.
Yep, Jeff is here.
Good evening, board. Nice to see you again. Jeff Lincoln, Health with Arc Design Resources. My client Antonio Pipitone is here in the audience. Could answer a few questions for you when I'm for that. Thank you for having us. This is a development in the Prairie Rose area, kind of near the well, I call it the Highlander. The Schnooks, the Schnooks, right? Yes. Blue Stem Road, Mr. Pipitone actually owns a business here on Blue Stem Road, in a building. He's in acquisition of this vacant land here at the north end of the development, off of Prairie Rose Drive, and looking to do a multi-building rental community. Which you can see here, whoops, upside down. I'm gonna flip back and forth between these two boards. So this is the development concept. We've got 29 units. One is like a kind of a garden home, a single family. The rest are duplexes, slab on grade, rental units. It's very similar to a building that actually, if I flip the board back, and I'll show you where that other building is at. But Mr. Pipitone came to us earlier this year. We worked on a concept plan for him, and we have all these property PIN numbers, right? This thing was platted years and years ago with, somebody's big grandiose dreams that never really came to fruition. So it's been vacant property for a long, long time. He's bought all the properties. We're here to not only do the development, but then to consolidate into one lot as a PUD. The intention is that he would own and maintain all these units. He would rent them out, single ownership, no selling, one guy, one Roscoe resident owning all these, renting them out to the community. Market rate buildings, no Section 8, nothing like that. So rents are probably in the neighborhood of, $1,500 to $1,800 a month. We've gone through all the design work. We've worked with Bear Graham, addressed their comments. They're really good to go from a street standpoint, stormwater detention, et cetera. we have submitted to the sanitary district. We have received their comments. Pending the results of this meeting, we'll resubmit for approval. Same goes with North Park Water. We have received their comments, we've addressed them, we're ready to resubmit. The driveway itself would be private, owned and maintained by Mr. Pipitone. We just have the two access connections on Prairie Rose. There was one in the middle that was planned that would be eliminated. We don't really need that one. We do have some supplemental parking on one end, although each unit has a 2-car garage and then 2-car parking driveway in the front. So 4 parking spaces per unit, if you will, plus the additional supplemental. This green space area down here is our primary detention area, and then there's a little bit in the back of this one single unit. So we came to the Plan Commission early May, and that was just after a turnover with a lot of new members. They had admitted that they hadn't really looked at the packet, so it was laid over for 1 month until the last Plan Commission in early June. And actually by Providence, that gave us some time to address a few concerns. One of which the lady that owns the quarry to the north was here, and Mr. Pipitone has agreed to put a 6-foot privacy fence on the back line of our development. So that'll alleviate her concerns for just people kind of cross trespassing and kind of making mischief in the quarry. There was some comments about the architecture. We had a supplemental meeting after the layover with Joe and Brandon and some of the zoning staff. So we've worked out all the architectural upgrades. There'll be some enhanced trim. He's agreed to add a window on the side of there's a garage storage room bump out area. We'll add a window there. And just do some building enhancements, which we have agreed to. And then also there was some comments and concerns. A couple of letters written by the neighbors in this development regarding the lack of a path. Through the timing of the delay, the village was able to pull out information that basically in exchange for the village to take over this once private road and make it a public street, that the neighboring community would build a path loop around here. And that was their obligation to own and maintain. So really, we don't think that there's really any necessary need for additional sidewalks inside this private development. It is a private driveway. It's not a public street. It's really in character with every other development in this area. There's the main path loop, but everything inside is just driveway. I'm just going to reference these buildings down here near the Schnucks that are somewhat similar to what Mr. Pipitone is proposing, except for with some upgrades. The landscaping, if I go back to the main board, we're maintaining, you can't see it with our green color, but we're maintaining the trees that are along the parkway right now, along Prairie Rose Drive. We've got front landscaping. We've added some rear landscaping, next to the patios. We've got some trees along the backside next to the quarry, and scattered street trees throughout. So he's excited to go. He's kind of, saying this is his next move in the village. He already, like I said, he already owns a business right down the street. So he's excited. I can answer questions, technical questions. He's here to answer some questions.
I have a few.
Okay, great.
I attended the ZBA meeting and I saw the staff recommendations, and you just mentioned one of them, the increased windows was a go. Installation of the cupolas on the garage, is that necessary? I would say no.
Well, yeah.
The additional decorative trim and shutters, doors, windows, anything like that. And the big one that I'm interested in is the installation of stone or brick veneer on the facades to spruce them up a little bit.
We didn't talk about we did talk about stone and brick. We talked about doing a little enhanced siding in the front, more like I'll call it like hardy board or,
Cement party
Yeah.
board.
cement hardboard. He didn't want to get into the stone,
Okay.
veneer, but we were willing to do something on the upside, on the facades to make it, a little more,
Spice it up a little.
spice it up a little bit, yeah.
So we have, I don't know if he wants to, but, because you had a good explanation for the board versus the stone. I don't know if you, I don't know.
What's that?
Yeah, that's fine.
I think
No,
you-
it's
It's,
what
you
we
explained it to
talked about.
us, and you guys haven't heard that, so.
Yeah, so I own the building at 4767 Bluestem Road. It's got Remax and, a business there, and it was all stucco, so we remodeled the whole building outside, and I did a lot of research on, I didn't want to do stucco anymore because I just didn't like that at all. So I did a lot of research on, that veneer stone. It's very thin. I'm not a big fan of it myself. It's kind of fake. It is fake. So I kind of wanted something a little more real. And so I started looking into the hardy board, cement board. It's got 60-year warranty. It looks a lot nicer than siding. We did our whole building that way and it turned out beautiful. So I liked it a lot. I liked it better than the veneer stone. And there's veneer stone there, so I just figured mine will be just a little different look. And I'm gonna be honest, that hardy board is just as expensive, if not more expensive than that veneer stone. And I think it looks nice for myself. And all around the windows, it would have that hardy board trim, obviously, so everything is, waterproof, cement. There'll be no problem, no cracks.
Will there be any variation to the facade at all, like color or anything like that?
Like
Where you have-
buildings.
Yeah, where you have like over the garage is blue and then main buildings, a different color, anything like that, or?
Well, my opinion, this is obviously, I don't want it to look like a rainbow.
Okay.
So I kind of wanted to kind of go along. And like all the buildings, we decided that we were gonna pick like 3 color siding, maybe, or 4 color siding. So the buildings would be like, whatever, one color, and then repeat again. So, but yeah, it's not all gonna be one color, but as far as, and again, my opinion, one building, multiple colors, I don't know if I'm a big fan of that myself.
That's fine.
Just because I would like
Any
to-
type of
Different colors
variation
helps,
is what
yes.
I-
Yeah.
Breaks it up a little bit.
Yeah, well, and the gutters will be, let's say, white, the siding will be,
Brown.
yeah, like a tan, brown, gray, whatever. And then like all around the windows will be the same colors as the gutters, white, and, the trim around the window, stuff like that.
So I like your idea, because it just breaks it up a little bit.
Yeah, it'll be,
The exact same building, 24.
no, we're not doing that, right? So, yeah, it'll be very professional. Everything was, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, 2 car garage, every one of them, so.
And is that a private road that you're saying? Is that a wider style road? Is the fire department okay with that, or?
It's a private driveway, it's
It's
a private driveway, it's a full 24-foot width. We've added a V gutter on the inside of it to control the water. So it kind of slopes from, the one side to the V gutter, and then we've got some inlets around here, routes up to the detention, so. Yeah. It's a very, it definitely works for any fire vehicles. It's really built to, the radiuses are really residential street standard. It's just it's a private.
Are you gonna have any type of like street lighting around that private drive at all, or just using the individual?
The buildings will all have the lights obviously on,
Okay. I'm just getting a picture.
Yeah.
In my head.
I do want to say one more thing about that hardy board. So the hardy board, we're gonna be doing it parts of it. It's not gonna be the whole all the way around. Unless they end up giving me a deal, then we're gonna go all the way around. Obviously, with my building, I was gonna just do the front. But then the company, I kind of worked a deal with them, so we did the whole building. The whole building, the one that I currently have, 4767 Blue Stem Road, the whole building is hardwood from front left side all the way around. We even built a shed and we did the same thing with the hardy board all the way around too. So again,
What's the square footage of each
each unit,
unit?
1,550 square feet.
And that's like a 3 bedroom.
Two bedroom, two full bath, 2-car garage.
And then
So you're looking for a motion to move to the board.
Unless someone had any questions. I heard the ZBA was 1,700 to 1,900. You're saying 1,500 a month? I'm sorry, be specific.
Oh, I just, I'm in that price for rent.
Price range.
I don't know what the
So,
rent.
I mean, realistically, the rent will probably be between $1,600 to $1,900,
So
somewhere around there.
once he builds his first building, he'll know what the rent needs to be.
And just one last question, did impact fees come up in any discussions?
Yes.
All right. You,
I made a motion already.
second, anyone?
Second.
Okay. Motion by trustee Babcock, second by Mr. Simon, vote please. Yeah, thank you.
Clock,
Yes.
Bright,
Yes.
Simon,
Yes.
Babcock.
Yes.
Okay. Number 5. Discussion and recommendation of approval of a tentative and final plat of Prairie Garden Plat number 3.
That's us too. Well, to spare all the technical details, the final plat basically takes all those little individual lots and properties, combines it all into one property, and all the easements get reallocated to where the actual sewer and water is going to be built. And access easement, public access throughout. It's already been through staff for review. There's a couple minor, I guess, wordsmithing comments, text changes. But with your approval, I mean, when the board approves, and we'll be ready to go to Mylar and we're out for signatures.
Make a motion to send it to the.
I have a question, is there an HOA or is there, how's everything gonna be maintained?
There's no HOA.
Okay, so is there gonna just be part of the rent is mowing and landscaping and?
Yes, so here's the thing, I own quite a few properties already. So this isn't like I've done, I'm involved already, I'm a landlord, and that's why I have a ton of experience in this. So it's gonna be a flat rent, and then I take care of obviously snow, grass, I maintain all the roads, everything, if there's any problems, it's all maintained by me.
Gotcha.
There'll all be 1-year lease for all the tenants, year to year. After a year, there's not gonna be month to month, it's, year ends, they renew a lease again with another year or more. There are tenants that want to sign 2-3 year lease. as well.
And the final name is, the unit is, do we have a name for it?
Oh. He wants to name it after his daughter, Bella Rose.
My daughter's Isabella, so the road is road.
And we've actually changed our plans, and we named this Bella Rose Drive as
Will there be an
private.
entrance sign or something to say what it is, like a?
Yeah, I'll have like a sign made or something with like some solar lights or something shining on it. I'll say, welcome to Bella Rose or something like that. Yes, sir.
Motion on number 5, please. But you made the motion, thank you, sorry. Second.
Second.
Trustee Clark on the first motion. Thank you.
Babcock,
Yes.
Bright,
Yes.
Simon,
Yes.
Clock.
Yes.
Thank you. Technical question. So 'tis the season of vacations. Are we obligated to be in person next meeting? I mean, if we can. For the board approval.
I don't think so.
We got,
It's been
I
discussed
fired enough
many
questions.
times.
Yes. Been here a few times.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. When is the next meeting? Or what's it?
July.
July 1st.
July 1st. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Number 6, discussion recommendation of a special event permit for Louis Palooza 2025. The event will take place 5689 Elevator Road at Louis Tap House on August 9th from 12 PM noon to 10:30 PM. Questions, discussion? Are you all good with this, Sam?
Yeah, it's my big.
That's why I'm gonna make question.
Yeah, I. Talked to them, about it, we're still in talk as to whether or not we're gonna need somebody for traffic assistance. We're good with the security that they're gonna provide and stuff. It'll just come down to. What we feel like, especially at Second Street and Elevator Road at the completion of the event, whether or not we need to hire back and have some assistance with traffic flow on that, so, but we're still discussing that with them, trying to figure it out. It's the first time this event's gonna happen, so kind of trying to play it by ear as how much vehicle traffic there will be. So,
Rick and Joe, if you guys are here, is there anything you'd like to add since you're here?
Present,
Right off the top of my head, when we spoke with the powers that be last week, presented everything. I know Sam's 100% right. We should have to figure out a couple things.
go ahead and present, sort of. Your big
Do
idea.
you wanna, show, you wanna,
We just briefly, just.
yeah, I mean, that's great, yeah, if you wanna point it out, tell everybody where everything's gonna be at.
You know, as I told everybody last time, I'm not exactly the best or architect, but obviously this is Louis, the top building. Yellow scribbly line would be our parking lot. The green box is where the stage would be. And all the music would head south. These red lines here is around is the patio where our volleyball court is. Those would be separate, or two separate beer gardens and a food tent. And the parking lot will be open to where the public can just stand, sit, whatever, it's bring your own chair. We will have few tables out there, but we can't take too many away from the patio for the seating around the yard. The whole green scribbly line will also be snow fenced around the whole entire property. And then, I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's two blue or purple X's. We will have porta potties, and one of them will be wheelchair accessible. Now, our gracious neighbors here in this strip mall is allowing us to use all of this for parking. So that's where all the overflow will go. And then this area here by Louise on our west side of our entrance will be parking as well in regards to like staff and volunteers that want to help, which probably 20-25 cars there. We're parking at the church across the street that's north of Vader Road. The first band is scheduled for 12:30. And they're going about every hour, 45 minutes with a 30-minute break with, so the sound guys can rearrange for the next band.
Address traffic flow. I know you did a little bit, but just so now we can see it.
Yeah,
How the
so
cars are going.
obviously with this strip mall here, they have two exits. We have ours here and then up north there would be our exit that goes on an Elevator Road. We're trying to devise a plan to get everybody to go one way, right, Sam, on the elevator?
If we're coming up off of the north side,
Correct.
that would be one way.
Right here.
Otherwise, they would disperse either north or south, come out of that south parking lot.
Gotcha.
Anything going north, that's where we're discussing as far as traffic control.
So out to the north, right turn only.
Well, once that second and elevator, we were talking about having an officer there, so it could go both ways.
This one.
Right, it's letting out at like noon or 10:30. We don't have a huge flow of traffic on elevator road at 10:30 on Saturday night, so I mean, we could explore some directions that way. From that intersection, so we're still logistics of it, so.
Thanks, Joe. Motion to send it to the board, please.
Second.
Motion by trustee Simon, second by Justin Pop.
Babcock,
Yes.
Bright,
Yes,
Black,
Yes.
and Simon.
Yes.
very good. Number 7, discussion and recommendation of adding flying radio control float planes as a year-round park use at Chicory Ridge Park.
So this is something that has been brought up several years by the Rockford Radio Flyers Model Airplane Club. They're the ones who have the last maybe like 6 or 7 years now have done a twice a year event in the summer at Chicory Ridge Park over the pond area. So what they brought up a couple of years ago, about a year ago actually, or a year and a half ago, was the possibility of making this a sort of a year-round or a flying field, very similar to Kieselberg is. The county has Kieselberg flying field. This would be a water float plane flying field. It currently already is. They've already done it for their events. They've already created this. This is actually already an FAA designated flying area. Over this sort of the area, you can sort of see on here, there's a line right here. Over this whole area here is already designated to be the flying field. Their flight plans or flying area is only over the ponds. And what this is for float plane flying, sort of a specialty, which they'll be doing this weekend, or sorry, 21st, right? It's next week. Oh, this weekend's coming up. And they've done this for the last bunch of years out here. Not always, it's not really a whole lot of people who are doing it, who are out there doing it, but it's their flying club who are really sort of in the specific hobby of doing mile float plane airplane flying. So what they've asked for, and I think would be a great addition to the village, would be to make this an official use of Chicory Ridge Park. Make it a use of allowing model airplane float flying over the pond area. So really what we're doing today is just asking general feedback, general idea from you before they come forward. They've got draft rules and they've really thought through, and we've worked with Troy and looked at how it would work, how you would maintain that, what you would do down there to use this sort of a year-round flying field. So yeah, it's just really getting general feedback from everybody. They will come in, absolutely want to come in, they'll present to you. If you're interested in doing that, we'll work through them. We'll work through more rules on that. When we were sort of talking, we're thinking it would be probably very similar to what the county does for Kieselberg, where you would come in and have a permit. You would come in, you'd pay your whatever, I don't know, whatever that number has to be to make sure we cover our costs for it. Have that permit where only those permitted people would be allowed to fly. And we'd also do what the county does. We have a good mile because the county already has this in place, but everybody would be required to be an AMA, American Mile Association, Airplane Association, I guess, member, which includes, and they have to file it with us, includes $1 million of liability insurance. So you would know that the person flying would be insured. There will only be somebody who has that card and has that permit with the village, allowing them, signing off, they have the rule, that they know the rules, they'll follow those flying rules. I think we were talking about, because our concern was, is it noisy, is it not? It'd be limited in weight. I think 20 miles an hour, or 20 pounds, I think is the maximum weight. I think they said most about 15, no, it's about 15. It'll only be electric, so they know gas. We had some people who were asking about that because they like their big planes. I think this weekend there's some gas planes out there, but at the flying field, like the regular flying field, it'd only be electric use. So you wouldn't worry about, any sort of volatile chemicals, and you wouldn't worry about the noise too, because electric is much quieter for that as well. So those are the big highlights of it. We were also talking, if they were going to do this, they would want the only sort of issue we're sort of working through on this is they would want to have a space to store a small little dinghy boat to be able to retrieve their planes if they go in the water. And so we were working through some ideas of how that would work. I think we ended up thinking it may be a cargo container, a small cargo container, smaller than the one that's at Riverside Park right now. But one of those types that we could really lock it up, have it secured, not worry about breaking in, stealing it, doing anything with that or damaging it or using the water or using the boat. I think talked about would be having, bright wording on that boat saying this is a, airplane retrieval craft only, just so if anybody saw them down there. In there, anybody in that boat, they would understand, okay, this is not for fishing, this is not somebody out there for that, it's clearly just for that sole purpose of retrieving aircraft if they had to. But yeah, and we've obviously worked through all those rules. There's some, I think the draft rules that they prepared in here. We made them actually. Just location. But yeah, they've got some draft rules that they were working through, sort of similar to what the county does. But, right now, before we get, really, really involved in it, we want to get some feedback from the board. Is this something that, I'd be interested in having?
So year round, winter too, like,
We would say close it off. I think we end up with October-ish, November. We wouldn't want it anytime that there's ice on there. We don't want to get into any sort of situation where, okay, you're out there, your ice lands on there. So as soon as there be sort of ice, we probably have a date cut off though. I think we talked about like March through November or something along those lines.
there'd be a limit to how many, like, I don't know, what if there's 100 planes out there or something, or there? It's just,
Yeah, I don't think it ever would be that, but yes, we would probably want to put a limit on there. And make those like a special event. Even if they're special event, it's a limited space. They have usually 2 to 3 planes flying at a time. But sure, we would, yeah, I think that'd be a real.
Who's gonna pay for the container?
They have offered, yeah, they'll work on fundraising, get the container, the boat, any sort of safety equipment they have to have down there with it as well. They'll have 2 life jackets there. Can you mention there always has to be 2 people anytime they're flying out there because they have to have 2 people as part of their own internal rules for that. So that would be part of the rules we probably put in place for that. Yeah,
Safety, are we gonna require
What?
training, what type of safety training or anything
they'll
like
have
that?
to, they'll have to do the AMA stuff for it, and they'll have to, abide by the rules of the area of our flight.
Boat, I guess. Are
Oh,
we gonna require any type of safety video that they have to watch so they know you have to wear a life jacket, this, that, the other?
probably not, we'll probably, I guess, I think we would make it in the rules that you always have to have life jacket, always have to have 2 people. And if we want to add additional rules, I'm sure we can put those together as well. But I think, as we're talking about it, I think the biggest thing, I think it'd be important to have is having that really big wording on that boat, that this is solely for, this is retrieval aircraft boat or whatever it is. So if residents do see people out there, they know that it's just for this purpose. And if they see people out there who are just, we're fishing off this boat, they understand that they should, so.
Container be placed,
We talked about right down here, I think, and up higher up, like right here,
yeah.
roughly, we're thinking. Yeah,
kind of hidden by.
it'd be hidden by that whole area.
Flood water.
Yeah.
Yeah, the floodplain.
Be kind of hidden back there though, not as if it's
Yeah.
container out in the middle of the open.
I think actually, no, I saw these trees maybe it's right down here actually, is where it circuits that marshy looking area with the tall grass and whatever, or that way, or back this way more of it's right over here. Yeah, we want it camouflaged and, we talked with them about, maybe it's something where they put, decal around it or painted or decal around it, planes or something, so it's either completely camouflaged, tannish, or something that's bright and.
Motion to send to the board.
And I think at this point,
Send it to the board.
if we could just just general recommendation that you're interested in us pursuing this further, and then we'll get a little more of the details put together, the rules, and have them come in and present to you, because they're the experts on it.
So I'm for
So
Invite
it's
them
a
in,
committee
please.
of the whole.
Yeah, I do come back to committee hall, I think.
Are you good with it?
Yes,
Play over.
Just good.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I don't think there's any.
No action needed.
No, it's just, just want to make sure that there's no
Just put
objections.
it back on the committee of the whole.
Number 8, discussion and recommendation of renewing a boundary agreement with the village of McChesney Park.
This is one that's been pending for quite some time. Which I don't know how much, if the new board discussed this or not. If we did early on, we've been very early on there. This is something that was, had for the last 20, I guess, probably 26 years, I don't know how many, 24 years probably. We've had the village of Roscoe has had a boundary agreement with the village of Chesney Park. Boundary agreement is essentially just an agreement, contractual agreement between two municipalities, which is allowed by law. It says, we agree that this, whatever line it's gonna be, this invisible line is going to be as far south as the village of Roscoe goes, and as far north as the village of Chesney Park goes. Just an agreement between the two municipalities saying, establishing this is where our boundaries are gonna end up being. It doesn't mean necessarily we're going to annex in there yet, you know, maybe a line of this will be out to probably to Boone County, I think is where this line would go to. And some of it may never be in the village, some of it may be in the village now. But it says that, you know, as we both start developing further out, really it's out east. We agree that we're not going to try to annex anybody or pre-annex anybody, any properties to the south of this line. They agree they're not going to try to pre-annex or annex any properties north of that line. Try to pull up here so we can see what we're talking about. I've got in the packet, and the line that's on here, the proposed line, is the same line, same legal description that's been in place for, I said, for the last 20x years.
What's the length of the renewal again?
This, the proposal on here is for the 20 years. Yeah, doesn't have to be, but that's
Is there any reason not to just do with this?
I mean, it's actually a judgment call on your part. It's legal, it's very
Yeah,
common.
I think that we move on.
Motion to send it to the board then, Morgan?
Or what-
We-
whatever
we
you're
have-
asking for here.
There's a procedure for it though.
Yeah, what we have to do, if you look at, report, you don't have to report, but state law requires 30 days, not less than 30 days, and not more than 120 days prior to formal approval. Two forms of notice, one posted for not less than 15 days and publication in the paper. So it's premature to send it to the board because now that you've said, yes, let's do this, we'll get it posted, we'll publish it in the paper, then we'll have a 90-day window. McChesney Park, this was started a year ago, so McChesney Park did all that a year ago, but that all has to be redone because they can't meet 30 to 120 days. So we'll just redo the whole thing and it'll be exactly as you see here, but premature to send it to the board because we gotta have that,
Whatever you're asking.
we'll just move it forward.
Do we need a formal motion to move it
We
forward?
just move to the board at within the timeline, maybe. I don't know how you want to word it, if we can word it like that. Just to make sure that
Just have a motion to move forward with the notice on
Okay.
the boundary notice. Yeah.
I think we did.
Favor up?
You guys do all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That works.
Okay, number 9, discussion and recommendation of the elimination of the grocery tax by the state of Illinois. Discussion questions.
If I may, a couple of weeks ago, this was brought before you to examine all of the material that is in the documents. To repeat, the governor had suspended this. The IML was able to develop an agreement where home rule and non-home rule communities could reinstate the grocery tax. And to do so would require a vote of this board, and it would go into effect in January. The tax is something that has been in place for decades. All of the surrounding communities are going to reinstate it. The dollar cost per household is very, very minimal. If you take the first and second quintile at the bottom, those individuals would pay on the average of $1.64 up to $12 in tax over a year. The top quintile, about $80. It would take someone to spend $30,000 on groceries to pay $300 in a grocery tax. So the amount or the impact per family is minimal. But on the reverse, the aggregate dollar amount is quite significant for communities. the village of Pasco will forego $100,000 if we do not reinstate that. And as indicated, that's the cost of entry-level police officer. It could be used for defraying costs on our rental vehicles, any number of uses. And it, as I said, the surrounding communities are going to enact this. So it is not, you're not going to reap any benefit, so to speak. People are not going to rush to shop at Schnucks because they think they're going to avoid a 1% tax. Just reflect on where you do your grocery shopping, the bulk of your grocery shopping. You go to Target, you're gonna pay it. You go to a Woodman's, you're going to pay it. You go to Aldi, you go to any of the surrounding communities, you're going to pay it. So the decision is, do you wish to enact an ordinance where we can reinstate this? Or forego it? And if it is every year trying to come up with economies here to make do with the shortfall.
I'm for enacting it. You know, we all recently paid our taxes. You look at the breakout of all the taxes for what we pay, and what Roscoe actually gets is very little. Get a Winnebago County, Forest Preserve, Roscoe Township, Roscoe Village, Roscoe Fire, Four Rivers. And almost all of those are, well, half of them are much more than what affects our taxes in Roscoe. Even though it sounds like we're making more money or assigning higher taxes, it really doesn't affect much. So I'm for it. Because, you know, at the end of the day, the responsibility for the 501c and other things is trying to increase revenue. And where this is on the table, I think this is where trustees have to vote. Nobody's gonna probably even think about this once it gets enacted, just something happens.
It's maintaining the status quo. I mean, it truly is, the state's just modifying the way the status quo is maintained. Somebody can call it a new tax. It's really not, it's just maintaining the status quo. Well, I'm against it. I think that we're elected to listen to our constituents, and that's one of the reasons we talked to a million people about this.
A million?
Wait, a million.
It's all right, I
10,000 people.
I've talked to a lot of people about this. I've let you guys talk, right? All right. Yeah. I've talked to,
Let's be reality about it's not a million
I'm
people.
just telling you, I've talked to a lot of people. How many people have you talked to?
I didn't say a million.
All right. You talked to anyone?
No, this is my opinion.
All right, it's my opinion as well. I've talked to a lot of people and they're against this. One, two, it's gonna generate $100,000 in taxes. This not Rockford, it's the juice is not worth, or the squeeze is not worth the juice, in my opinion, on this, because one, you talk to Schnucks, it's our only grocery store that we have here. It's the only grocery store. We go there all the time, talk to the manager there. This is something that can adversely impact them. I don't want to have a food desert here. I love the convenience of Schnucks. People love that. The constituents have said that's something that they're against. This could potentially put us at a competitive disadvantage. Schnucks and a competitive disadvantage, and they've pulled out before. They've closed Schnucks down in Rockford off of Mulford. They've closed the one off of Rural. So we're doing pretty well, but I mean, this could potentially be the tipping point where that could affect it. So a lot of people don't want it, and $100,000, we don't even have an appropriate for. We don't have an appropriation for this spending. We're saying, okay, if you can tell somebody we're gonna do this and we're gonna take the money from this and we're gonna expend it on something else, we're just taxing and holding and putting it in the budget. So to me, that is not worth it, especially when you talk to the constituents that are overwhelmingly in favor, not a million, okay, overwhelmingly in favor of against it.
$100,000 was in the general fund and $100,000 went to a number of things. You could say it went to healthcare benefits for staff, or it went for this, that, or the other. The 1% people do not notice. We go back to what it amounts to. It amounts to anywhere between $2 and $25 a year, period. That's it. That's not a significant lifestyle event. And to say that Schnucks is going to be at a disadvantage if we enact this doesn't hold water. Schnucks is a multifaceted corporation. They're headquartered in what, St. Louis, Missouri? And people shop Schnucks bargains. They shop wherever, a multitude of stores. And people will go where they're used to going, the service they like, the product, so on and so forth. Again, people are not going to flock up here in Roscoe to shop Schnucks because they're going to save 1%. Schnucks is so overpriced compared to other places, those are factors that people consider.
That's your opinion.
No, it's fact. If you take a look at
You're saying
prices,
Schnucks is overpriced, that's a fact.
yes, you take a look at some of the items on the shelf and you compare them to others, yes.
Okay.
People go into Schnucks, they fly in,
So you're saying, all right, on the record, you're saying that Schnucks is overpriced, it's a fact.
many, yes, many of their items are. Compared to Costco, compared to Sam's Club,
And what is the
compared to
convenience of having
Walmart,
a grocery
compared
store
to
here in town?
Aldi, yes, and that's.
That's
true.
self-employed.
People do,
I like it.
people go all over to shop. So. We will, any other expressions regarding this,
I'm against.
Justin?
I would say as a family of six, I'm against it. I spend up to $400 a week in groceries. I'm sure a lot of families out there can relate to that. So I'm definitely not only saving $2 to $12 a year.
And you buy all of your groceries in Roscoe?
Not 100%, no,
So you will pay it when you leave Roscoe.
potentially, but usually.
Not every community has acted, let's be on the fact, it has, which ones have, can you tell me?
Brockton, Brockton
Yes.
has, McChesney's going to, City of Rockford is going to.
City of Rockford has to. They're up against the wall.
Yeah, they're-
Let's not compare it. That's not a apples to
If you
apples.
wanna look at statistics, it's about 6% of the villages aren't enacting this.
I get it's a small amount of money, but the state is also creating $700 million in new taxes. Between service taxes, so when you go get your car work done, you'll pay tax, and go get your hair done, you'll get taxed. You get taxed on just about any and everything else. I get,
Right, well, we'll put this on the board for a formal vote, 2 weeks.
Well, don't we as the public, don't we, is this just discussion recommendations, we just gotta recommend it, we wanna move it to the board,
It's going to be on the board agenda.
on the village board, or is it going to committee of whole agenda?
No, it's going to be on the board agenda for a vote.
How does that work?
Well, I think I could just go right, I think the mayor can put it on the board agenda. I believe that's my, that go to committee of whole.
It is,
What's
right here.
the committee of the whole?
Right.
You could have a vote, just send it to the board with a negative recommendation. Yeah, I would like to.
I'd like to vote, yeah, I'd like to have a vote then.
That would be the most typical, is entertain a motion and have a trail. And then it goes to the board without a positive recommendation.
All right, I'd like to vote
To
We need a motion.
motion to, vote on this now.
You make a motion positively, so I know you're.
I'll make a motion that
Send to the board with a negative.
No, we meant positive.
Just do it with a positive, because then no means no.
I
and yes means yes.
make a recommendation that we eliminate the 1% grocery tax within the village of Ross.
Thank you. Second.
Wait, that's,
So a yes is gonna be,
I know, the simple thing would be we're recommending it to go to the, right, and then we can vote no.
but we have a motion on a second on the floor. You can withdraw the motion, withdraw the second, and then entertain his motion.
I'd like to read, yes, I'll withdraw my second then. If
So you
that's-
withdraw the motion.
Oh, that's explained.
So then the motion will be, we will send it to the board.
Send it to the board.
Second.
Thank you. Vote Kim.
We're just voting to send it to the board.
Just voting to send it.
Motion to send to the board, okay.
So a yes is a yes.
And who was the first one?
If we start a vote.
Justin.
Black. And Simon?
No, it's sign up.
I think it was, I said the motion.
You did the
Motion and you
He did the
second?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Babcock,
Yes.
Bright,
No,
It's just.
You could have done it all those in favor, say aye, but if you want to hear everybody's vote, so you got a yes and a no.
Well, we're just voting to send it to the board.
Right, that's all you're doing.
right now.
Oh, gotcha. So no, send it to the board.
right, no?
No.
Block,
Yes.
Simon,
Oh, it's 2-2. It's 2-2. Motion fails. I still think the
Go
mayor,
to the board.
I still think the mayor could put it on the
It
board
goes on the
agenda.
board
That's fine,
agenda.
but you said it was on the board with the negative.
With a negative.
Well, let's go to the board without the record.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. Discussion of use of public funds to paint over or remove the Create 15 mural at 10534 Main Street. Discussion, questions?
I will just start off with that, I put in front of you, we've got the survey requested, Massachusetts Sign requested a survey to be released, last committee meeting. Results of the survey are in front of you, out there. Questions were, I support using village funds to paint over the removal, paint over or remove the mural. I oppose using additional, village funds on this matter, the mural should remain as is. I am neutral, do not have a strong opinion either way. I wear the mural prior to the survey, need information. And I believe public art is valuable. If not everyone likes it, it should be removed based and should not be removed based on subjective opinions. I oppose using public funds to alter the mural. But I support private efforts to do so. So, plurality of this would be, I oppose using additional funds on the matter. The mural should remain as is with 16 votes. Support using village funds to paint over and remove the mural with 7, neutral 3. Now, I wear the mural prior to this 2. Believe public art is valuable, it should not be removed, even if somebody doesn't like it. It's 9. And I oppose using public funds to alter the mural, but I would support the private effort to do so. There's 8 votes, total of 45 votes. Next door to all village residents, village neighborhoods for 2 weeks. So this is those are the results of the survey.
Well, I also know there is a survey here that he submitted as well, or not survey, petition. Mike's already talked to the folks over at the
Masons.
at the Masons as well, and I appreciate you putting the survey out. I think it was very difficult to get. I had difficulty finding it. I don't think it reached the amount of people that we would like to have met, but
I think about 450 people, received it, but not the whole thousands,
I mean, a lot of folks, I just don't think they know where to find it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's an issue. You know, as a side note, we have village administrator and we have administrator. Do we have 2 accounts or is it just on next door? Is it?
We have one village of Roscoe account.
Okay, so it's village administrator. So it came out under village administrator, right? Is that how that?
It came under the village, it was posted by me.
Okay.
But we have a village of Roscoe next door account that goes, and we can choose neighborhoods it goes to. We have a Janelle would post from it, she has an account. She'll post announcements, things on it, and then this one I post down this one.
I also think that, you know, when I was personally was just a yes or no, whether people want this or they don't want it. And I think that you could potentially bias the study by saying, or the survey by saying taxpayer funds, because people are gonna get anything taxpayer funds on it. So I mean, I think that the true essence of it, and yes, I want it, no, I want it aesthetically, sort of probably lost in the statement using taxpayer funds, which is fair, but I think that the sentiment is, do we want to keep it or not, as opposed to the cost, right?
But in full disclosure, if people indicated they didn't like it, and the sentiment was they didn't like it, there would be the expectation that there would be a remedy. And the reality is the remedy would require the expenditure of public funds. So public funds have to be mentioned so that people have, again, full information.
I think on the survey too, I think, I oppose using public funds to alter mural, but I would support private efforts to do so. I think that sort of addresses that as well. I mean, when we did, that was a higher, there was a higher vote, 8, out of the 45, but noting that, they would support private funds, using it, but not necessarily public funds for. Anyway, put it together to get an idea of what people thought, but I understand, it's a small survey sample, but I think it's hard to do yes or no, just because I think we've heard that, right? We've heard from the public, we've heard, people don't necessarily think it's their favorite mural or favorite thing, but it's how important is that to them, right? That's what we're trying to get at, is how important is it that they don't like it? Is it to the point of using taxpayer funds to remove it, or is it just, yeah, I don't like it, I wish it was something different? I put some comments on there, or all the comments actually, I included in the packet. There were our survey responses to people, which I think pretty much say the same thing, right? That they don't necessarily like how it looks, it's not, probably they'd like to see it. We had one person who actually posted sort of their own markup of that. We certainly needs to look at local artists, but and sort of show the brightness that it could have been, but I think it's just trying to get a general idea of how important it is to people, to get rid of it versus just you like it or not.
So Joe, you did this separate and Terry did his own, right?
I don't think it is, I think we did
Just a
consideration edition,
Right, the petition, any of this petition?
30%.
32.
Well, the other point is that we're trying to develop Main Street, right, and not downtown, and you're drawing people there, right? So when the thing tumbled down in the parking lot, and I went over to look at it, you see the mural, that's what you're looking at. You're at the fire station, you're looking at the mural. You're in downtown, you're looking at the mural. So, I mean, I think that that's really the gist of this is, if we're gonna spend the money on this.
I think I agree with Mike here, where Mike said, okay, one, there's a lot of. 22 people is not representative of a significant survey, and even though 45%, but to Mike's point of using public funds, okay, I get public disclosure, but think about it, it's too diluted. Where Terry's walked around, got people to sign it, send a petition, he's got 30 people saying we don't like him. So to me, it's much more.
The other thing is that I don't
think that, okay, fair is fair. Is that, one, I like the fact that Terry went out there, talked to people, he got 30 people that said, hey, let's change it. Whether we spend 30,000 again, that should come up to vote once it's decided who's gonna do it. If the people own that building, they want to put whatever they want. But I think it goes back to the owner of the building that has to decide that.
They already did it.
Yeah, if they did, then if we as a board decide whether we want to contribute any money to it, once we see some really good art, because I'm of the opinion, Jared, like, in Bentonville and Rogers, I mean, they have beautiful, attractive on their building flowers, and it draws you. This is not, that's my opinion. So I think, one, this survey, okay, well, you got responses, it's not valid compared to what representative of the community walked around and got people to say, hey, we don't like it. Okay, maybe only 30, but maybe we require more votes and then come up with, well, what comes to us? What do we want to contribute to that? Why just not 30 times? So that's my two.
And I apologize for.
And we're 100% agreement on this.
I apologize for interrupting you. I do think the other thing is that you have the opportunity for public input, right? I mean, before it, we can have actual residents for us to determine what they want on this.
Yeah, get some real samples where they get to look at.
And that was the difference between what was put up and not. I don't think that, make sure people want Ross to vote for that, and that's.
And I think you have a competition, you include people in high schools that make a competition of it, because you would end up with some really good ideas that way. So
I think there's an opportunity also to, we never received any of the sponsor money that talked about.
because you probably saw the picture for it. Anyway, so what's the motion you're looking for?
Well, I have a question about the process, though, to Attorney Green. Is a petition signed by X number of people of the Masons sufficient to communicate that they have given permission for another entity to do some work on their private property? Is a petition signed by 10 people?
Well, I'm sorry, Marilyn, don't that one. I mean, a petition's a petition. I don't know if he said, hey, that thing really looks bad, don't you agree, please sign here, or how it was presented. It's 30 people, just like unfortunately, the survey only ended up being 40 people. To me, This isn't my legal opinion, but to me, neither one of them have huge weight because
Right.
it's such a small sample. I pulled in the parking lot, and sat there and stared at it for a while today.
You were really bored.
I saw I had to go look at it. But anything I say beyond this, it would not be my legal opinion, so it's not, I mean, it's not a legal
We
opinion.
had talked
It's not
about
my job to get.
presenting them with a document that.
Yeah.
I can't remember how you phrased it, but something that doesn't hold us liable if.
Well, how did it happen in the first place? How did the village, how did we get permission? How did this happen? They had to give permission to somebody to do it anyway.
I mean, but I believe it was a cooperative and they.
It's all in the board packet.
Yeah, the 815.
Yeah, so Great Wing Five was part of the Rock Art Council. They were doing these murals, all the Rocket murals you see, and Chester murals and West Park River. They were sort of sponsoring all of those, working through that. I think the village reached out, or I don't know if the village reached out, or they reached out to the village. Putting into place, do you want us to do this up in this way, this area as well? I think Rodney has one as well. The village paid the 30,000, then the Rocket Art Council went through, selected the artists, like there were several artists, and some samples. Gave those examples to the village board chose the one artist, and then they sort of went forward with it, but the agreement was all with the Rockford Art Council and the artists, so the village only did a donation.
Was there not once a signed document from the president of the Lions Club giving permission to Masons
With
to
the
use that
Rockford Art
building?
Council, not with the village, yeah.
But they did sign something.
Yeah, there's an agreement with the Rockford Art Council and the building.
And in the end, the village wrote a check, but did not go on site. They didn't do the painting. They didn't incur any exposure whatsoever if somebody falls off a ladder.
Well, and the check was to the Rockford Art Council, not to, yeah.
Obviously, whitewashing over it would cost $100 versus 30,000, but whatever. I mean, but you're talking about recreating, or not recreating, creating something new. That's strong. My strong recommendation would be, again, if you want to donate to it, but don't.
Yeah.
Because you need, it's on
Exactly.
private property,
That's what it's their building. They can come and ask for a donation, but we have a resident of this community that's complained about it. He's put it to us multiple times. He put a survey together. And the bottom line is, okay, we need to decide, are we gonna, when they come to us, whomever comes to us, are we gonna contribute a donation? That's I think the bottom line.
Did we have anything budgeted for this at all in the budget?
We have money for, I think, public art project
So we definitely put something in there
for
budgeting for it.
public art, and
So public art.
Like 15,000.
So,
I think you decide what you wanna do. I mean,
all right.
I'm hearing you don't like it, we all know that. Do you want, do we wanna paint over it? Do you want to get a artist? Do you, like, what's the ultimate goal?
I think what we have to decide is, and maybe Troy could chime in on this, is, or an artist. Do we have to paint over it once already, or can somebody just paint over that now? That's a good question. And I think we move ahead and we approach the Masons with a plan or a document and ask them to at least start the process, giving us the go-ahead to do with what we wish to that building.
Well, wait a minute, do what we wish physically or make the donation so that they contract to do it.
They're not gonna contract anybody to do that.
We just heard.
That was the village dropping $30,000 with Create 815, and they gave us permission to do with what we wish. They didn't see the plan. They didn't even see the drawing.
okay, and now I'm confused. I thought, and I wasn't involved, but the village put up $30,000 and then either a 501c3 or this 815 entity basically did it all.
Yes.
No village personnel were on site, and that's the way I would prefer to see it. If we need to put up $5,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 to have it done, but then we don't contract to do it. Either that same organization, if they still exist, or the building owner
And why can't we then?
what do you mean, why can't we?
Why can't we take it upon ourselves if they give us permission to change the building?
I mean, I'm not saying you can't. It's just, we would want to have it properly documented that there's hold harmless and indemnification and I guess we could go down that path and contract ourselves into some sort of an immunity from,
I'm sure there's a company out there that would do it for us.
probably check with your RMA, Risk Management Association, make sure they're, I mean, if we're doing public art and public property, then it's us doing our stuff on our property. I'm guessing IML RMA would probably have some advice. Ultimately,
You look at all the things, the murals and Belvedere on all the different buildings, those are all on private buildings, right? I don't know if they're donations or what, but I mean, it's been done. So maybe we look into that.
well, you could also have, and if that many people don't like it, there might be an opportunity to raise funds to.
I'm gonna do that if this
Yeah.
moves forward. I've already.
Can't we just get a bid from a contractor and then agree to pay them?
Well, is the contractor gonna work for us?
Well, you tell us, how do we do it?
It would be better to have the contractor work for the building owner.
Okay. So I'm sure that the building owner doesn't want it or whoever.
But see, it sounds like what I'm hearing is two different things. One is paint over it, so it's just a blank wall. The other is replace it with something attractive. And I guess maybe it's a two-step process.
It's probably a two-step
Get
process.
it painted over
You're gonna
and then-
paint it over and then.
Yeah.
But
Painting over it would be relatively
so
simple.
we're on the hook for is we want to contribute the funds to do it. You tell us how we do that legally and safely.
There's a process to it. You can't just go and paint over it because it'll chip out and you'll.
Oh, no, it have to be done right, for sure, absolutely.
It's gonna have to be almost removed and then painted over.
What's under it? Brick?
Yeah.
Might have to
Brick.
blast it or sandblast it or whatever.
It's gonna be.
Then you have to worry
It's
about
more
the
than
damage
just going to
the
Home Depot and
100
buying a
year
bunch of
building.
paint, slapping it on.
And then part of the problem
You don't
can
know
very
the full
well be damage to the building too, so is that, again, you'd have to protect the village. With those consequences.
You have to sandblast it, oh, then it holds brick, cause it can.
I don't think you have to do that on a brick building. I think you can just paint is like very thin. I think you just paint over it. But again,
You can buy a
what we're
contract.
asking here is, do we want to contribute the funds? Yes. Okay, how do we legally keep us not liable for it and work with the people who want it done and get it done? That's all we're on the hook
Well,
for.
I mean, I suppose you choose a course, paint over it in gray or whatever, and find a contractor and get a quote.
There you go.
And you know how much it is, and then you go to the building owner and say, we'll contribute the money if you sign the
Yeah,
contract. and have
there
the
you go.
money."
Okay, that's what we're looking for, Tom. You tell us how to do it safely, legally. We'll put up the money.
Right, then
Derek?
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, that was number 10. Let's talk about covering it first, okay? We talked about that now. That's a good idea.
Are you going to make the first donation? Mike is collecting.
Fine.
I'll contribute to.
I will.
We'll take care of that. There's money in the budget, so let's get matching funds.
We need a motion to take a second step to this.
I don't even know that you, as long as I mean,
I don't think,
I don't know what you're, yeah,
I. It would be staff, meaning Joe, would have to contact some contractor to say how much would it cost to cover that appropriately with the.
something Troy could help.
Yeah,
okay.
get that information, put that on the next committee of whole meeting, like what
Meet with the Masons and
I can do that.
and go talk, can staff do that as well? Maybe Joe.
So we're gonna say is we want to paint over the building? Okay,
Cover it.
Just, how would you like this done? Do you need it removed? Do you want us to cover over? What, and then we go
Yes,
through the
well,
process
how
of
can I-
how do we replace
Yeah,
it
we
with
can do
something
that.
else?
Sure.
Because we're gonna need to know that for our next one.
because my question is that, what if we have other buildings to come in? I think we're doing painting over a private building. Just painting over it, not graffiti. Don't like it, but it's not graffiti.
I don't think this is
What do you
for
think?
what is.
Yeah.
We gotta solve what's up.
Yeah, okay.
There's really not another, I've thought of that, there's not really another building.
Handle that
on
when
Main
that comes
Street.
up, but we don't need to create another problem on top of this, just,
All right.
You go the owner, the Masons, we're gonna contribute, get a contractor, get it done.
work with the Masons through the whole process.
That's all they ask. Is that they're included this time.
So what do we do? We can make a motion.
Well,
Whatever, yeah.
Or wasn't it to investigate the cost? I mean, that has to be an action first.
Yeah, this is just under discussion. There's no recommendation. With the.
Can we get this on another committee of the whole meeting with a proposal for a cost and tentative approval from, or discussion with, pending discussion with the Masons?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we have to find out how much, I mean, that's why I'm
Get
asking
the
Troy.
quotes, yeah.
Right,
Get a
so I
couple
guess
quotes on how much it's
there's no
gonna
action.
throw gray on the wall.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're basically directing staff to
Get quotes.
get
and-
quotes and find out what it'll cost.
Sure.
Bring it
We can
back,
do that.
What's the proper way to do it? A contractor's paying, whatever.
Right. Bring it back to committee once you have those.
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
Number 11, discussion and recommendation regarding the future use, development, or disposition of village-owned property located at 11243 Main Street. And for, I guess for time purposes, can we put 11 and 12 together?
In terms of talking about them?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, sure.
It's
In terms of
basically,
discussion.
what's our next step on RFP, RFQ, whatever we decide, or it didn't work there. We're now gonna be presented with property at Liberty up the street. Do we, which route do we wanna go? We learned on this route, it didn't work. Do we go to the next route? What do we do with both properties that we're holding on to?
Do we need to do an RFP or anything like that? Can't we just invite individual business owners?
You just
that have
put a for
interest
sale sign
in
on
it?
that's free. For sale sign, see if we're interested in buying it, and then they'll figure out what they wanna do with it then.
Well, I think we don't own the Liberty lot yet. We don't own the Liberty building, so we don't own those properties yet. So I guess we're buying that for the purpose of selling it, of getting rid of it. I guess what's,
Let me say
Free
something.
property.
Let me see, if I might make a comment. Generally, when a municipality buys real estate, it can't be to speculate and resell to a private seller. That's not a public purpose.
I thought
When
this
you're
was
buying
Liberty.
real estate,
This is not the Liberty property.
This one's Labrie, but we're combining number 11 and 12
Gotcha.
because we're
Talking about the same thing.
saying.
yeah, when you buy a piece of property, you generally have a public purpose in mind, then you move forward with that public purpose.
No,
Whether
the
it's a
main
parking
purpose,
lot or a
yeah.
park or a whatever.
The main purpose was for the village to get those developed with what we want. Something we like, something we agree with, something that fits our main street. But we spent, I don't know how many months on Labrie, it didn't work. Do we, do we move to an RFQ? Do we just, I don't know how much longer it's gonna take us to acquire Liberty. Can we pick a direction so we don't run into the same issue we ran into down here, which was nothing?
I don't understand why we can't just invite business owners that have interest in developing in Roscoe and just having a conversation with them and saying, hey, we have a few pieces of property you want to develop. What do you have in mind? Give us an idea of what you're looking at.
What would you like to see?
Around Liberty, it'd be kind of cool to have a little restaurant, maybe some retail shops and maybe some multifamily above the retail shops.
And down the street? Same thing.
That's so far down there, I'd say. I honestly don't know. I haven't thought about that. Maybe some sort of multifamily downtown, like we've talked about, our process with Place Foundry. But it could be commercial development too. I don't really have a preference. I more focused right here in this main strip because that's as far as my head goes for commercial development right now.
Mike, what would you like to see?
I would like to see a restaurant with a rooftop bar and 3 retail businesses with housing above each of those. And I not say what the other retail outlet wants in there already. I've brought this up a number of times already. It hasn't gone anywhere. It's a prime, the prime, I personally think it's the prime location in Roscoe, Illinois. Again, what I'm looking for is started a process with Labrie, it didn't work. Let's don't go down that road again. We're gonna, you know, sooner or later now, we're gonna get this property. We're gonna be sitting on 2 Main Street properties. And our goal here was to find developers like build to suit, you know, just fine, can't we get a sign? That's just instead of going through 19 pages of whatever, is to get some interest from somebody that whatever sign we put up, you know, just says, you know, you build here or talk to the village, call Joe. I don't care what you put up there, but let's just not run. This one didn't work. And it's still sitting there. And
Yeah, I mean, so the issue I think is that we're buying up property off the market. And then I guess we're using that to do what? I mean, it seems like we're competing against the public or the public market.
I am over here fighting my thumb, because you're engaging in private development.
Yeah, as a village.
That's not a public purpose. You don't buy property on speculation and then sell it at a profit or at a loss to a developer to develop it. I mean, you buy.
I sold at a loss all times. How many villages have given up property for $1?
They have, and again, it depends, is it in TIF, is it in a business district, there are state authorized programs where you can give away property. There's another community I'm working with that was looking to give away land for a tax assisted housing, elder housing. And that's a whole program that you're allowed to do that. Statute says you can do that. I'm not sure what statute we're going under here to acquire a vacant piece of property and flip it to a developer to build a restaurant and a rooftop bar. That sounds like
we
what
already
you
tried
ought to
it.
be doing, not.
We already tried it at the Labrie property.
Well, I think that we're missing it, the point here. It's a request for proposals to see what can go up there. If somebody wants to bid on it, we could put a for sale sign out there. Somebody wants to bid on it, buy something, put it up there. The idea is to make sure we don't have a car lot there, that we don't have, you know, something that is not going to be appealing. But however it gets done, whether it's through, you know, private equity or somebody and ends up buying it on the market or whatever, that's fine. They're still gonna have to come to this board to get approval for what they're gonna put on there, right? So I think to me, it's just, however we get it, we got this property, we want development. The means and how it happens is through either an RFQ or an RFP, a sign, selling it, whatever, to get it, something in there.
In context, maybe fair, is that when we were elected in the previous election, the goal was to develop Main Street. That's why we hired then Place Foundry to put together a plan of what we were gonna develop. And that property came available, the Labrie property down further, came available at the time when we voted to buy it. But once we had the Place Foundry plan in place, more of that was focused right here on this part of Main Street, not down there. So but that property was an opportunity for the village to acquire properties that we feel we're gonna develop over the long term. Because we have been trying to get a grant for developing all of this downtown area. So combining this confused me a little bit, Mike, because the Liberty property here on this corner fits perfectly with what Place Foundry had put together in their mock-ups, like, hey, here's what we can do. Where we would change the zoning, so it has been a strategy of committing to the development of Main Street. So, and when those properties came available, they approached us. Would we like to buy it? So that's how that came to be. So it wasn't sort of buying properties to flip it. Now we ended up with a property that's kind of outside the sweet spot of Main Street, that Labrie property. What can we do with it now? So just in context here, it wasn't,
Well, we put the RFQ out for how many months and
well, it was an RFP that we
RFP,
decided
sorry.
on, and an RFQ is typically the approach you would go when you don't know what to do. And it's a lot looser, so that people can say, hey, yeah, I'm interested in the property, here's what I'm gonna do. And then ultimately, we agreed to that RFQ, then they would, if you require a proposal, which more definitive in the process.
Well, I'll look at the statute and don't let that stop you. I mean, if you own it, you gotta do something with it.
Yeah, and that's about
And I can call and find out how Lowe's Park did the Mercado Filenos. Said,
I know,
I
might
don't
be,
know if that was Lowe's Park. Oh,
might be pop up too, you know.
if you know what I'm talking about, that
Right.
container place.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway.
I know
Well,
in Place Foundries conversations that
I
I
think
have been a part of. There were other opportunities where we could essentially engineer plans and then go out and find somebody to just build those plans as well. Saying, hey, we already have approved. set
So
of
that was with the
plans."
creation of the 501c. And then
Right.
that would be the
Right, that would
vehicle.
solve the problem of.
Yeah, that's the whole vehicle to get to that point, but we had to change the zoning to create the plan that would allow these people to do what they want to do.
Is there any value in doing an experiment? First, not take both of these properties together, but first the Labrie and experiment with the RFQ. And see, because it's more in like with people coming and saying, hey, I've got this idea, this is what I can do for you. And then the Liberty property has had a public use for quite some time. We use it for Christmas. We're going to be using it for the market here. And when we acquire it, it can also be grass parking temporarily for other events. So I don't think there's the need to lump them both together and rush to do something this summer with both of them. And keep, as I said, the corner lot for public use right now and experiment with the RFQ for the Liberty property. Because then your people, whoever you have contact with or people who are interested, it's a looser type of request to come in with their idea and pitch a proposal and.
better than what we're doing. It's better than what we're doing now, yeah.
I mean, just the gentleman that was here earlier proposing. Maybe you develop something that, or even the ambassador people, I think it's called the ambassador people right across from Life Church. That is building
There's residential.
residential, not attractive.
And once the zoning is in place, and that is something to back to David Sidney, that's in the works to get the public hearing, later this month. So once that's in place, that may also keep the interest of individuals in what they propose for that property.
So RFQ is the way that we have been asking to go this entire time, just. None of us have really known the difference between the two, and when we did ask it, we kind of didn't get a definite.
Well,
like,
I
one or
think,
The other.
well, he did what he thought he heard people say, and that was the request for proposal. Whereas he was trying to steer people to the RFQ because he said it would be easier. And at that time, we were looking for something quick and we thought, gee, someone would show up right away because we had heard all these rumors.
I don't think you were here the night that he came and he went through the whole RFP proposal process, but at the end of the day, I think what we ended up with, we all acted maybe prematurely because the property came up available before we had our vision of where we're gonna develop Main Street. So bottom line is, I think that you still got a good property, a bunch maybe will come up with something, but it might be a real estate.
And there already is a sign there.
That's take advantage of that, try an RFQ. What do we have to do to turn that into an RFQ? Do we need to change the
Well, that
QR code or?
Well, that can be something, again, you wanted to have the a la carte expenses for David Sidney's Place Foundry and put that in your list. What's it cost? Do the RFQ for the Liberty property and when can you do it? And what does that look like? And where would you disseminate this?
the same thing. Do the, you know. That's fine. Anyway,
Okay.
Be back to, when you were talking, we're talking about your priorities and Main Street
right,
and
yeah.
breaking apart these things. What you wanted to have as the specific outcomes.
Public comment, last one, Terry left.
Terry.
Okay,
We'll just put repeat.
Wait, we're gonna comment.
Tom, hopefully it's helped you out on the property. Loves Park did not own that land.
Yeah, I did think.
Meridian printed Bob Chainsaw owned that land. We bought it from Quantum Design. He sold it to Charlie and the boys that live in those.
I think David Sidney might have been involved in a proposal to develop that, or. what,
He
it's-
was.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't think Wells Park put all the money in.
That took years, he said.
It did.
didn't want to put,
Going back to the grocery tax, I looked it up, there's 219 villages out of 1,295 municipalities that have. Enacted the grocery tax, it represents about 18% to date, according to IML, with an exception.
15%.
Yeah.
Of the total state.
The total state.
There is until October. And many of them, well, even those that belong to R1 were waiting until after the election because they didn't want them. Fall out or whatever, political.
I think, who was the gentleman that presented, and what was that meeting we went for, the historic?
Brad Cole, that was
Brad
Brad Cole.
Cole spent a whole night explaining all the effort they went through on that particular topic. I don't know if you really had that.
Yeah, to get that power to
Yeah, to
go.
get that,
Yes.
so it was pretty, well, that's a recorded then, but he did a good,
Well, the Policy Institute, again, all of those, the arguments for it are some of these arguments.
Okay, presentations, I don't want to put Kim on the spot, but do you want to give us a quick synopsis of your trip? No?
It's a lot of information that
Did you learn anything?
I did, a lot about Goya. Yes, it was beneficial.
Thanks for going.
Yeah.
All right, no need.
next,
for executive
next time, give us a
session.
break.
Yeah. Report.
I got another one going in July in Elgin. And then there's a week-long one in October that I spoke with Carol about that. I'd like to.
When is, when do we have?
A lot of information that,
Okay,
it's
When do we
interesting.
have to register for IML?
That just opened up
It just opened,
like yesterday.
so we need to
When,
put that
when
on
is it? When is it?
September 18th through 20th in Chicago.
We got it now. It's open, we'll put a nice agenda if you want. We talked about that, yeah. It was opened up yesterday, I think.
Yep, it did. Okay. No need for executive session, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Second.
All in favor?
All in favor, aye. Aye.
Thank you, guys.